One of the most important but often overlooked aspects of fitness is flexibility and stretching. So we want to make sure that we keep our bodies nice and mobile, keep our muscles nice and lengthened, especially after we've been training, and especially if you're newer to training as well. So today I'm going to run through on this video a few stretches for beginners and a few options as well, so you can tailor different stretches to you, especially if you're someone who perhaps finds it a little bit more difficult to get up and down off the floor. So let's start with some real easy ones. So our shoulder joint is a really mobile joint, which means that it's great at doing lots of different movement patterns, but it also means the shoulder joint is a little bit more vulnerable to injury and to encounter problems. So let's just start off with some shoulder circles. That's it, full range. So I would do about 10 going backwards and then about 10 going forwards. And just for a bit of spinal mobilisation, I'm going to give myself a big hug, tuck the chin, round the upper back. So slumping forward slightly, rounding my upper back, and open out really wide through the chest. Slump, open out really wide. And I'd probably do about 5 or 6 of those. This piece of kit here is really useful for stretching your upper body. So we can do these band pull aparts. Arms straight in front. Pull the arms straight. What we're aiming to do here is squeeze the shoulder blade back, in and down to open across the chest and the front of the shoulders. To get a really good stretch through that front upper body. And I'd probably do about 15 reps of those. And then overhead, same thing, pulling shoulder blades back in and down. So we stretch across the front of the chest and the shoulders. And again, I'd probably do about 15 reps. Next stretch. Part of the body that often gets tight is the hamstring, the back of the leg. So here I'm going to use a box to help me. Pop the foot on the box, knee slightly soft, hinge from the hip, body towards the leg. Feel a nice release on the back of the thigh. And we can do the same on the other side as well. Now with all of these stretches that we're going to hold, the static stretches, I would say to hold them for around about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how bad you feel in that particular area. There might be some areas where you feel, do you know what? Yeah, the stretch has eased off, I'm not particularly tight, I only need to hold it for around about 30 seconds. There might be some other areas where you feel like perhaps a minute might be beneficial. So, going to do a stretch next for the glutes and the outside of the hip, using the box to help. Take a seat, bring knee across ankle, and then tip slightly forward. You can use your hand or elbow to gently push the knee out to increase the stretch. Moving on, let's do another stretch across the front of the chest. So we reach behind. You can either interlock the fingers or have your hands, one on top of the other, squeezing the shoulder blades in and down to open across the front of the chest and shoulders. That's one that I'd probably hold for 30 seconds to a minute. And then let's do the side of the body. So you're going to grab hold of one wrist, pull up and across. And you'll feel a really big stretch down the side body into the lats. Changing sides. What about our hip flexors, front of these hips here? A few different stretches we can do for this one. So one might be that you kind of almost take a lunge position. So you might want something to hold on to. I've got the wall here. You take a long step back, tuck the hip under and sink down into the back knee. So we're going to open up this hip here by sinking down and holding. The reason that you might want something for balance is because we're trying to stretch rather than do a lunge. Looks like a lunge, but we're trying to open up into the hip and stretch here. And then you do the other leg. An alternative to that, if you're able to come onto the floor, is to lie down onto your back. Bring the soles of your feet together, lie back, and just let your knees flop out to the side in butterfly pose, a great hip opener. And then we've got another stretch for the back while we're down on the floor. Let's come into child's pose. Take the knees wide, push the hips back towards the heels, spread the fingers, and relax the forehead to the floor. And that one's a great release for the hips, but also the lower back as well. What about the upper back? Well, this is one we can do in standing. So hands together, tuck chin. Think about rounding your upper back. So you're pulling your shoulder blades apart, trying to separate them. Also, a stretch for the back of the shoulder we can do is bringing that arm across, giving your arm a hug in towards your body. And the same on the other side. There we have it, just a few simple stretches worth incorporating into your fitness routine. Even if you spend 5-10 minutes doing them, it's worth the effort, it's worth the time spent on those 30 seconds to 60 seconds holding each stretch. And obviously you will tailor the stretches to you because you know where you're going to be feeling the most tightness, whether it's your upper body, your lower body, the front of your body or the back of your body. Happy stretching.